My guest this week talks about working in an environment where employees spent their bonuses immediately because, as he says, certainty didn't exist for them. Pierre Boutin is a French-Canadian from Quebec who is CEO of Volkswagen Group Ireland. During our conversation, he talks about high-stakes leadership, the hardest decisions he ever made during his 30-year career, and how Irish people have taught him some of the most essential things in life. This isn't a conversation about cars, it's about leadership under pressure. Before we get started, a quick word about our sponsors, Philip Lee LLP. Philip Lee has evolved from a specialist regulatory practice to become a leading commercial law firm. Their partners are sector specialists, leading talented teams of lawyers in a collaborative, nurturing environment. Philip Lee's solutions help clients build better businesses, a better society, and a better planet. Find out more at philiplee.ie. Philip Lee, leading the way in commercial law. Today's guest is Pierre Boutin, a French-Canadian hailing all the way from Quebec, who has spent his entire career in the automotive industry. Started off in the Ford Motor Company 30 years ago, then moved on to the Nissan Motor Corporation, and is currently President and CEO of Volkswagen Group Ireland for the past 2 years. Pierre has been with the Volkswagen Group for over 12 years now, working in various countries like Russia, Canada, and France. During his time with the company, he's managed to steer the business through fairly choppy waters, including pandemics and major crises. He has also led massive electric vehicle investments and navigated cultural, geographical, and market shifts. Safe to say he's a very well-seasoned leader. Pierre Boutin, you're most welcome to Business Plus Talks, whom we're partnering with Philip Lee on, and I think you actually know Ronan Dunn in there.
Indeed, he's a very close partner for us.
Can I ask you just a little bit about why or how you got into the automotive industry?
I don't think it's coincidences as such. I say sometimes I was almost born in a car. My dad was in the driving school, rent-a-car business. There were always cars around the house. So I learned a little bit how to take care of vehicles, doing a basic mechanic and so on. And it was going through my vein. And finishing school, I got the opportunity to get a traineeship in Germany. And guess what? For Ford Motor Company. So, yeah, I don't believe in coincidences as such in life. I think there's some stars. The universe is sent.
Sure,
exactly, yes.
And you started off within the sales and marketing area?
Sales and marketing area, correct. Yeah, pretty much all my career. Now it's more general management. But I've touched the beauty of the car business. It's a global business. It's a very diverse business. You're dealing with, everybody does the same thing, but very differently because the cultural environment, the political environment, the fiscal environments makes it easier or impossible. And so within these companies, they have budgets sometimes that are equaling what you see at Google and some of the mega companies that are investing. So you touch finance, you touch sales and marketing, manufacturing, procurement, real estate, whatever. Yeah. This is a very, very interesting environment.
Were you always curious growing up? Were you you strike me as quite a calm man, but I think within Quebec where you were born and bred, and before you obviously got into the automotive industry, were you competitive in that space? Were you very curious in terms of what you wanted to do or find out different ways of working before you obviously got into...
I was relatively quiet being younger. Okay. I was not so confident. I guess I can say this. I had an uncle who worked in embassies. He moved from one embassy to the other. And at Christmas, we'd see him. And he had such stories. He was a good storyteller, too, at the same time. I'm sure he embellished it a little bit. And so the dream of going international, of going what's happening abroad, as a French Canadian, you grow up within 6 million speaking people and 350 million plus Anglo-Saxons. So
French is the number one language there, isn't it?
In the province of Quebec, yeah.
And largest, I think, producer of maple syrup, is that right?
Correct, yes. 80% of it around the world. So, yeah. Canadians always go abroad with a bottle of maple syrup in their
just for good
suitcase.
Measure, yeah.
Absolutely.
Good stuff. Okay, so I think your early life shaped your work ethic. You said already imagined that you're a very human-led leader, right? So you're very honest with your approach, that your confidence wasn't there from an early setup. But was there a person that you aspired to be like? Was there someone who was very much, I suppose, in your eye line that shaped your ethic or where you wanted to go in your business career?
I've been very fortunate to work with extraordinary people over the years that have taught me so much. The things to do, the things not to do. Sometimes you watch and you say, it's not exactly what I would do. I think the most important thing is through these experiences and dealing with different people and different leaders, you have to find out very fast who you really are. What do you stand for? What are your values? And then it becomes your brand. And where do you want to go? What do you want to work on? Maybe to improve yourselves and so on. But yeah, I have to say, I've had tremendous experience in boardrooms, working not so close, but I had a couple of interactions. We're
going to get onto that soon, actually.
Yeah, with some of the greatest car guys in the world, Carlos Ghosn being one, that definitely I learned a lot from his style of management and his approach and why he was so successful, and others too, frankly. So it has exposed me to so many over the years.
So I'd like to jump back, but the year is 2014, so you've taken on your first role in the Volkswagen Group.
Mm-hmm.
And probably a little bit of a culture shock, Pierre, in terms of Russia being your first post. So I'd imagine that was a bit of a rude awakening, would you say?
Actually, it was in a way, but I had worked 3 years or so in the Central and Eastern Europe. So I kind of had the Soviet mentality of kind of understanding of some behaviors, some elements. So I thought, hey, I'm prepared for Russia, no issue. It was a very different experience. The toughest by far, the one I learned the most, and the one that
About yourself?
About yourself, absolutely. I talked about values, right? You're obviously confronted with a lot of things that goes against your values. So you got to remain authentic. You have to stay, true to who you are, and these were extremely difficult. Plus, obviously, so you got the cultural element. I joined a new company, it was Volkswagen, but I will surprise you, and I say this very respectfully towards Volkswagen. The first year on the job in Russia, while it was, heading towards the crisis, the first crisis of 2014, collapse of the ruble.
It was a recession, wasn't it?
Actually, the ruble collapsed because it was right after it was during the Crim takeover from Russia, and it was very, very tense, very difficult. But the biggest challenge I had was to adapt to the corporate culture. What is valued within the Volkswagen Group? How decisions are being made in terms of governance.
How does it differ?
It was extremely different from where I was coming from in the Franco-Japanese organization, which was very much business-driven. It was all about the business case, a highly diverse environment from the CEO to everywhere. So I was interacting every day with a lot of people from around the world. Volkswagen is definitely a German company, and it's proud of, and it's its strength also, right? So, but adapting to this was much bigger challenge than I anticipated. Now, in itself, I'm not saying that adapting to the Russian environment was easy in times of crisis also. But again, this is very quickly you find out who you are.
Yeah.
And but I as tough as the experience was, it's probably the most valuable I've had in my career, and I still cherish today. And frankly, it was extraordinary altogether.
Any key moments that you could call out, or sort of, let's say, conversations that changed how you perceive things, or what happened within? You talked about the boardroom scenario. What happened over there that changed you in general? Like, so you touched on a few different elements there, but was there a conversation that happened or a moment that, I suppose, made you think differently about the market in general and where you were?
Maybe I'll tell you two elements.
I'm sure there's a couple of war stories here, right?
There's definitely a lot, but surprisingly enough, the first long story, but I'll make it short. First time I fly to my first assignment abroad. I'm on a plane, just waiting for the flight to take off and so on. I grab a magazine. It's an article of Carlos Ghosn, talking about how to be successful in a very diverse and culturally diverse environment. And this element has always been with me up to now. And it's basically to be successful wherever you go, because I've always been a minority. In my own country, I'm a minority. And everywhere I've been, obviously, in the world, I'm a minority. And it's what I've learned through this, and I've seen every day, it's been extremely useful to me, is never criticize. Because there's things you'll never understand. Even if you've done a lot of research, you have your own biases, right? Your own cultural elements. So don't criticize. Ask a lot of questions.
Sure.
Listen. Show empathy. And look for the facts. And that's, if once you have the real facts, because what you consider facts might not be what I consider facts, right? Then it gives you a real push in business and wherever culturally, and working with different environment, with different people. And on a personal level, I share also, because the pleasure of doing this internationally is obviously understanding the complexity of the different markets. But the real jewel for me has been dealing with people teaching me. And I will never remember...
People first, right?
Yeah, people first, definitely. And I'll share one element with you. One day it's bonus day. So we get bonus checks. It's great. I go with my Russian team. We go to the bar, having a pint and just, enjoying the day. And we go around.
Is the beer good over there?
Not as good as in Ireland, right? But basically, it was about, what are you going to do with the money? And it was all about, I'm going to spend it now. Yeah. And why now? So as a Canadian, I'm very fortunate. I have hope in the future. I have trust in the institutions, government, legal systems, and so on. My Russian colleagues were not in the same boat. So I could not judge, why would they spend so much money right now? I was saving. I was saving for my retirement. That's what's the good thing to do, right? They were not. So people teach you a lot of things. And when you start understanding, what they go through, you probably say, well, I would do a lot of similar things if I was them.
And, okay, so Russia, very different, right? You then went back to... Well, I was going to say France. You're French Canadian, but you're not going back there. You're back to maybe speaking French. Okay. Yes. So you were there for a couple of years, and I believe you restored quite a healthy network dynamic. Would that be right to say? Yeah. How did you go about that?
I was actually called in to come to France at a time where there was some chaos in the organization.
It was basically dealer relations you were just improving.
Yeah, some actually internally they let go a few people, and to me it's all about the first thing you do when you go anywhere, like just you and I, the first few discussions we've had, right? It's like getting to know each other. Yeah. What's on your mind? What do you like? Why are you here? What drives you? What are the things that you feel that are broken around here? So people tell you what's important.
Sure.
And if you listen very carefully, and if you really, because you create some expectations when you do this, but you start acting with what you hear, then you have a lot more ambassadors and people wanting to go in the same directions that you want to take them to. And this is very, very rewarding. I get paid to get the KPIs. That's normal, right? It's where we.
But you're not just a numbers guy, though.
And actually, my real pleasure, my real joy is the learning I get through dealing with people every day. They teach me about so many things, and I want to have an impact on the business. But having an impact on the business is having an impact first on the people.
Yeah, because many a CEO, and forgive maybe the choice of words, can be quite egotistical or arrogant. You strike me as the polar opposite there, and that's very refreshing to see and hear, which is great. And I then look at, if you look at your timeline here, right? So you go from Russia to France, nice flow here, Pierre, to then land in Canada, back to your home soil there, right? And I have a quote that somebody pulled it. Well, actually, I pulled it, but somebody actually mentioned around the impact you had there. Okay, you may have seen this. So there was a dealer who said you were extremely people first. Your importer-dealer relationships were second to none, and you were straightforward, honest, and above all else, a man of his word. That's pretty powerful. That must be nice to hear back, is it?
Indeed, yeah. Yeah.
What did you do over there that had such an impact?
Again, a very chaotic environment. The dealer network back then were close to taking some legal actions against the company, and you again reaching out to people, understanding what they're because what they're looking for. Why are they associating themselves with your company or your organization? And the major element to me over the years is I'm in the business of engaging people. First, our staff.
That's actually what you said to me on the phone. I'm in the engagement business.
Yeah.
Which, again, is very refreshing to hear. But also, on the same token, Pierre, you were instrumental in securing one of the largest EV supply chain investments in Canadian history. Yeah? Would you give yourself a pat on the back for that?
It's very sweet, yeah. As a Canadian, because I worked a big part of my career abroad. I've done different things abroad, but doing it for a company, of course, but understanding that this will have impact on the Canadian lives for generations to come, that's definitely very important to me. Bringing something, giving back to the society. You know, again, growing up in Canada, I was very fortunate to go to school. I was paid most of it by the state, right, by the taxpayers.
Is it really?
Yeah,
okay.
Still. And so it was a way for me, even though I spent so many years abroad, to arrive and say, okay, what can we do really here? And understanding, you know, also what Canadians stand for, what we're good at, how can we compete against, because the investment was against, you know, basically other countries, including the U.S. and Mexico and so on. And why
There's
Canada?
There's definitely a competitive element there, isn't there?
Extremely competitive. But again, it's like anything else. You stand up for what you believe in. You look for your strengths and how you bring value. And you have to believe. You have to be very confident. So yes, it's one of the very, very sweet moments in my career.
And now you've landed in Ireland.
Mm-hmm.
There's no manufacturing of cars here, though, sure there isn't?
No.
What has Ireland taught you to date? Or what have you gleaned from this country that is very unique or different to anywhere else you've been positioned?
You know, sometimes culturally, the countries or the culture you feel you know the most or you're close to can represent some of the biggest challenge because you're kind of blindsided. And I look at this, and my sister-in-law is Irish.
Okay.
I grew up with a lot of Irish around. Of course, the Irish build part of my my country, right? So, and arriving here, you say, well, okay, I know the Irish. I know how. So maybe, you know, over the first few months, it was actually a bigger challenge. But what they taught me is some of the most essential things in life: the relationship, the people factor, being really at the forefront. I've been to many countries, but this is unique here. This is very important.
You're just saying that now, aren't you?
No,
I'm joking.
Frankly, no. It's sincerely, I really see it. You know,
Yeah.
It's and I respect this highly. You know, in some ways, I can see a lot of similarities between the French Canadians and the Irish. Not on everything, of course. I have, but definitely there are.
Canadians would be direct, would they?
Not really.
Okay.
Not really. No. They putting white gloves to say things.
They're very personable people, aren't they?
Very personable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I ask then, Pierre, what would be in your career? Let's walk it through from a Volkswagen Group perspective. What would be like the toughest decision you've ever had to make?
The toughest decision you ever have to make is always to let go people. Doesn't happen to me too often. I try my very best.
Because the group does very well, doesn't it? The group as a whole.
The group does very well.
Yeah,
the group does very well. But obviously, COVID time, it's survival mode almost. I went through this also during the financial crisis in 2008. And said, okay, we have to let go some people because beyond the fact that you're losing colleagues, you got to think there are families behind.
Of course, yeah.
There's people that are actually going to thrive with this. Maybe it's one of the best things happening in their lives. Not at the moment.
Yeah.
And others will maybe never be able to move forward and get it over with. So that's a decision where I've always been extremely careful. Now, I haven't done it so many times, and I hope it's not coming back, but it's also the reality of life.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, because I think you mentioned COVID times, and also hasn't Volkswagen Group exited Russia as of 2022?
It did, yes, indeed, yes.
Which was harder, the pandemic with the supply chain issues, or the Russian stint?
They were hard in different ways. The pandemic was difficult in a way where you didn't know what was really happening. You didn't know how long it was going to last. You had no idea of what the future looked like. Once you touch on all the business fundamentals to protect the organization, protect jobs, and so on, it's almost a wait and see and a day-to-day type of approach. Yeah. In the Russian crisis, you got to be really very active you have to be on the offensive. Offensive meaning like you have to relook at your business model. You have to take some decisions of investments or not. You have to look at your sales marketing strategy, your pricing strategy. There's so many things.
Are you overseeing all of this? Do you have
yes.
an ear and an eye on all of these things? Yeah.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. Yeah, and the process we've built in most organizations are for regular times. When you hit a crisis, a lot of these things, if you go through a process of, let's say, getting an approval for X, Y, Z, and it takes 3 to 4 months. 3 to 4 months in a crisis market might be actually the end of the company. Yeah. So you need to have the trust of the senior management in the headquarters, and with this, you have to trust also your instinct, your gut, because it's definitely not black and white.
Yeah, and actually that leads me on to a question for you, because I don't know what success looks like for you. Is it customer trust? Is it market share? Is it environmental impact? What is it?
Success for me is when I work with people on something we really care about and we give it our very, very best. Something not easy, something that maybe many people don't believe we can make it happen, and then we do make it happen. That to me is real success. A lot of the other things that we consider success, of hitting some targets or whatever, to me it's part of my job every day. But to me it's the extraordinary, going above and beyond what you really felt was possible, and you stretch yourself and the people around you, and you made it. You make it happen.
Because I know there's another quote, actually, I've got a few of them. You've said, "I don't pretend to know everything." Again, the human-led approach there that gets the buy-in from your employees and your staff to allow you want to continue working in that company, because, and we touched lightly off air there around the impact that a good leader has, and how easy it is then for people to in turn want to work and have that end goal delivered. Because when you feel like you're working for a team, it's not a beautiful thing. Clearly, if you're with a company for 12 years, you're doing something right. So well done. Have you any advice for leaders in terms of, let's say, managing change, Pierre, through what you've only described as quite turbulent times, and you've seen it, over and over again? Anything you'd like to advise people that they could do, or any sort of insights there?
Managing change, I think, is the most beautiful and the most challenging thing that we are doing every single day. And changes are coming, as you know. I know it's cliche to say this, but every week. It's technological change, it's legislative change, it's societal changes, and so on. I think it's you have to stay close, and very close to your customers, very close to your staff, very close to your business partners, because they are the first indicators. They will tell you, or not tell you, but they will react in a way, and it's going to give you some signs that that they are on board or they're not on board. But the key element to me for any transformation is to define very clear sets of goals, and not a grocery list. To be very simple, something that you talk to any staff on the floor, hey, what are we trying to achieve? They can tell you, yeah, we're trying to achieve 1, 2, and 3. And how do I contribute? Well, by doing 1, 2, and 3. And if you have people first understanding what we're trying to achieve in a transformation, what are the benefits of doing this, and how supporting you will be towards that, and how committed you are. Because I've seen some fabulous ideas over the years, fabulous elements where you say, this is going to be a fantastic success. But if the CEO is not fully committed, this is failure on day one. Because people will see through you. You know, you cannot play a game. You have to be authentic.
An old boss of mine, Pierre, said, and it's always stayed with me, pace over perfection too, right? So get to market. The market decides where you go and what you do, right? Nothing's ever going to be perfect. So the sooner you get there, you optimize, you go. Just get 1% better.
Yes.
Would you agree on that?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I heard this from one day I was with Google people, and they say progress over perfection.
Yeah.
And you see, this is extremely challenging in a German-driven, perfected company. Like, it's engineer-driven. So for us, it's been a challenge, but definitely something I've learned from, and I believe in fully. The world will, and the fact is this is because of all the changes happening so fast. What you believe is going to happen in 6 months, what you're driving for, you're going to have to adjust. You're going to have to adapt. So as long as you move forward, this is the most important
thing. And if you
thing.
don't transform as well, you're sort of likely to disappear.
Oh,
right?
Absolutely. Status quo is basically a ticket to failure.
Yeah. And you've said every country you go to teaches you about business, but yourself as well. Is there one time that you can pinpoint that taught you the most? Just one?
Yes. It was my first international experience. And I had been working for 3 months or so, talking to many people around. And I was not getting through. I was getting bits and pieces. People were not opening up. It was extremely, extremely difficult. And I was starting to doubt, am I the right person for this? Am I capable of doing this? And I remember, because it was a Saturday morning, not that I go to the office. But
everyone gets that imposter syndrome too, don't they?
Yeah, indeed.
Fear
Absolutely. And it was a promotion for me. It was I had a lot to prove. But anyway, Saturday morning, I'm cleaning up a few things at the office, and I have this lady just stopping by, and she looks at me. It's tough. I said, yeah. And she says, don't give up. You're on the right track.
Just a random lady said that to you?
Random lady. And that moment, that gave me a boost of confidence of saying, okay, sometimes you have to be patient. It takes time. And that's what also you need to adjust when you go from one country to the other. The notion of speed, the notion of urgency is different from one culture to the other. The notion of time, the notion of money. So you have to be patient.
Are the French a bit more laid back?
Surprisingly, wow, it's another debate. We could talk for hours, but
I love your accent as well. Just for the record, I need to be able to speak French, or at least have a French accent at some point in my life. But that's for another day. So what I'd like to do is actually, and I know that the Volkswagen stats, because I've done a little bit of research on that, they're doing quite well. If you look at it you have a huge range within the portfolio, from Audi to Porsche to Skoda to Seat. Yeah. Top 2 global automaker, is that right?
Correct, yes.
And you're number 1 in Europe for passenger sales. How is the EV side of the business doing? I think the sales are quite good from what I can see, 717,000.
Yeah.
What is the next step? Because it's growing quite sharply now. What is the next step in that? Because is batteries the biggest issue there? For the way if you're trying to look at a new breed of electric vehicle, what is the barrier to make it? Because the charging point, it's the biggest debate going all the time. I've got an electric car, it's cool, but I need to, or where's the charging station? Where are you going with that? Where or what has Volkswagen Group got a sight on? We want to be the best in X. What is that?
It's not a technological challenge right now. I mean, are we going to see an ongoing improvements on technology like we've always seen over the last few decades, and it will continue? The batteries we have today are certainly much better than the ones we had 5 years ago. So that is going to continue. The biggest challenge we have is, again, the engagement, engaging the customers, convincing people that this is the right direction. And with this, you could argue, well, okay, what about the pricing? What about the range? What about the charging network and so on and so forth? But the element is this: if we wait, just going back to what we're saying, for everything to be perfect, it'll never happen. Yeah. Combustion engines are not perfect, and yet it's been the technology for the last 100 years, and we've accepted this. And you know, driving a combustion engine, people say, well, I don't have to make any compromises. It's not true. You're compromising certainly with the environment. You're compromising with a lot of other things. It's a choice you make. So. And frankly, I'll say this to you. I remember, you know, being in the car business, I launched the first electric vehicles with my former employer. It was extremely difficult. And surprisingly enough, my kids have no interest in the car business. I tried to bring them to Le Mans racing, to auto shows, to, you know, places where I would have killed at their age to go. But the day we came out with electric vehicle, I saw them shifting. And why? So the importance of newer generations, what kind of legacy we're going to give them. I was
going to say, because you're trying to apply to the younger market now as well.
Absolutely.
It's a totally different setup, isn't it?
Yeah. But people recognize that the electric vehicles are the technology of the future. Yeah. Even those driving combustion engines and buying combustion engines today, and they're saying maybe the next one. So I think we have to be very optimistic still, but we need to get even better when you look at what the work that is being done by the manufacturers, the legislators, and we need some consistency. And we shouldn't be waffling about the direction for the future. I think it's important for the future generations. And you know, also at the same time, yes, we have to protect employment and wealth on the European continent, for instance. That's really important because these decisions have multiple effect. You know, the Volkswagen Group's got 650,000 employees. We have millions of people through our supplier base. So you make a decision too fast on one technology versus the other, or you're not consistent, and that costs employment at the end of the day. Yeah,
because you mentioned engagement. I think you're also quite obsessed with ecosystems as well, and not just organizations as such, where everything connects, you know, from dealers all the way through, right? Is that something that you applied to the business yourself?
More and more, absolutely. Okay. Because, let's say it, because we're starting to get a lot more data. The cars are connected.
I was going to ask around that. How does that then apply to future?
Yeah, and it brings a lot of benefits, you know. Also at the same time, you have to respect, obviously, you need to get the customer consent, and you got to make sure the data is very well protected. But, you know, future vehicles will tell you this is time to, you're going to have a problem with your vehicle, call your dealer, or you're going to have different benefits using the technology moving forward because it's connected. I mean, the first connected element we've all used for years and years is what is Navigator, right? I'm going to be stuck in traffic. Where do I go? It's connected. So the future is definitely electric. The future is really connected. And we got to make sure we're making the right decisions along the way to provide a more affordable, a more convenient transportation. I still believe highly in individual transportation, in the respect of the environment, but we got to make it also in an affordable manner for people, for the future generations.
Yeah, because things are getting expensive now, aren't they?
Very expensive, yes.
Any mentors along the way? Would it be Ted Charlton or Cyril Chatelet that would have helped?
Interesting. I would say to you, there's one gentleman I worked for many moons ago, and I was a new manager, and he was recognized as being like ruthless, really tough on people. And actually, I asked to go directly work for him. I was his right-hand person. And there's been, over the years, there hasn't been, at the beginning, probably every month, now maybe every quarter, I think about him. I think about what he taught me. and he was extremely people-driven, contrary to what people believe.
Okay.
And
Hence why you are the way you are?
yes, absolutely. He taught me the authenticity aspect as a leader, adapting your communication to have a greater impact, respecting people, even in when you make tough decisions. I saw him in action. That was like prime time for me in my career. And that really shaped me moving forward.
Actually, Pierre, that's a good point, right? So how, in tough times, how do you repair trust? You touched on trust earlier on. When stakes are high, how do you approach something like that? Because that's a key chat. That's quite a difficult one as well. Because trust, like if your customers don't believe in you anymore, or are slightly on the fence, what does that look like? Or how do you sort of turn that ship again then?
You know, you and I, maybe we have a challenge. Trust is broken. Maybe we repair it in a month. For some people, you'll never be able to over a lifetime. So everybody's very different. And you have to accept this. And this is where you have to consistently do what you say and to be very transparent.
This goes back to that chap saying, you're a man of your word. So
absolutely, yes.
Live up to that?
Yes. I think it's a very important business nowadays in a time where, we're being challenged by technology, by so many things, fake news or... I still believe in a handshake. I still believe looking at people in the eyes.
Yeah.
And
you haven't stopped looking at me in the eye for the whole conversation.
Well, you've been looking at all the questions.
I'm trying to concentrate as well as looking in the eye. Okay, great answer. So, I mean, look, you're a truly global leader, right? And you've strong views on how the markets change and differ as well, from human to cultural, and you're in the selling cars business, okay? And most people, well, actually not most people, but at least most families would have one car, and it's quite a competitive market too. And I think even with public transport kicking in and cost of living getting higher and higher, it's going to get tougher and tougher to sell cars, to your point earlier on there. Have you any grand plans for the Irish market with the group?
The Irish
You don't have to give the ideas away now.
No, but I will say to you, we're extremely fortunate in the Irish market. We have probably the largest car park in the country. Car park meaning number of vehicles.
Okay.
Sorry. Number of vehicles, I think we have over 600,000 people driving our cars every single day on the Irish roads. Okay. So it's a sign of trust. But also with trust, there's expectations. And we have to continue to deliver great service to them, convenience, respecting them, affordability also, and being very close to these customers. We should never take anything for granted. And I think that we work extremely well with all our partners in Ireland. They're very well engaged. Generations of investors, family-owned business. I have to say it's very important to me. My dad was an entrepreneur, as I mentioned to you earlier, so I respect what they stand up for every day and what they're trying to accomplish, and we're here to support them in growing the business. Now, Ireland is also a great place to try, to test, because of the success we're having, because of the engagement of our partners in the marketplace. And it's a very adaptable team, very open-minded team, which is, I think, a real quality for the Irish people. Open-minded, kind of, okay, let's see, what can we do? Can we do this? Can we make it happen? So we're touching wood. This is a very good market for us, and we cherish this every day.
Transparent communicator and a great listener. Okay, so do you have any books, Pierre, or beliefs that change how you've led or think or shape your views?
There's one quote actually that I've looked at so many times over the years, especially when I had challenges. Is a guy called Jennings. He said, "Destiny is not a matter of chance. It's a matter of choice. It's not a thing to be waited for. It's a thing to be achieved." So that taught me also.
Haven't heard that one. I'll chalk it down though.
Over the years is like, you're always going to be in doubt, but you have to make decisions because you need to know what is, when you open the next door, what is going on, what's going to happen. And yes, it's sometimes very stressful and you might be very, very challenged in that sense and say, well, I don't want to do this. But opening the next door will help you opening the next door and the next after and the next. And it's the progress we talked about earlier.
Yeah, and there's a team around you, right? So you need good people to deliver on it for you. Any habits that you have? You're obviously looking in good shape there, so...
Oh, I'm trying hard more and more as I'm getting older. It's more important, right? I got to be more careful. No, I think the habit to me is...
consistency?
Is definitely consistency in terms of setting yourself, high standard for yourself and learning. I listen to podcasts, of course. I read books. I like to go to conferences to hear what people have to say, what they have to share. That challenge, and I'm not looking. Frankly, I'll say it. Over the years, even my wife's told me a few times, why are you always taking the most difficult thing to achieve there? To me, that's where I stretch myself the most and I learn the most. Get
comfortable with the uncomfortable.
Yeah, exactly. And, frankly, every single time you get outside of your comfort zone, this is growth. And that makes you stronger and makes you better.
So what we've done, actually, Pierre, is we have a question from our last guest. Okay. You don't know the question, obviously. Okay. And the question to you is, when was the last proper health test you did?
Was actually 3 months ago. But I
loved his angle, by the way, because he was veering off the corporate side, going back to your human-led approach and actually health being number one, because without it, we've got nothing, right? And it kind of caught me by surprise a little bit, but everyone should be doing it.
Yes, because, as a leader, your overall health, mental, physical, is bringing you the energy you need to drive and to lead and to interact with everyone around. And that's really important. So if you don't take care of yourself first, you won't be able to take care of the team and the business. Yeah. So frankly... yes, it's something that is important to me for the last few years. So I guess like anybody else, I waited till I had some health challenge myself. And then one day you say, hold on, life is not forever.
And everything okay, I hope?
Oh, yeah. Touching wood.
So I'd suggest to anybody tuning into this is you do it every 6 months at least. And that's the key aspect here, because we all need healthy, happy people in a work sense. So I'm going to ask you, and plus also... I don't know whether Boutin, is that the right?
Correct, yes.
I don't know if that'd be great for your health, would it? So that's, by the way, French fries, cheese curd, top of gravy, and it's originated from Quebec. So if you ever get over there, give it a lash. So what question then, Pierre, would you have for the next guest?
Today, you call yourself in 10 years from now, and you ask the person that you've become, what do I have to be careful with? And what word of encouragement and direction can you give me today?
Powerful. All that's left to say, Pierre Boutin, is merci beaucoup. From Quebec to global CEO, you shared some amazing stories, the moves that were made, the setbacks, the bets, the people that you backed, and the decisions that you made. You've a very human approach, I think, which is wonderful to see, and a lot of people can learn from you. So, once again, merci beaucoup.
Thank you so much, Dave.
Cheers. A quick word about our sponsors, Philip Lee, LLP. Philip Lee has evolved from a specialist regulatory practice to become a leading commercial law firm. Their partners are sector specialists, leading talented teams of lawyers in a collaborative, nurturing environment. Philip Lee's solutions help clients build better businesses, a better society, and a better planet. Find out more at philiplee.ie. Philip Lee, leading the way in commercial law.